Greetings! Here's your Project 2 critique. We're going to start with Leslie in this video, probably do 2 or 3 others at least. Alright, we're looking at this, and I'll just start at the left here. Looks like lots of interesting compositions. And this is, I feel like there's just I don't know if there's a ghostiness going on here or what. We have 0.3 seconds. But there's something interesting in this. I like the light. I wish my horizon lines were horizontal and the lines were vertical. But I do like the light coming through this. I like the contrast. There's a nice contrast range, somewhat high. Like the value of this is really nice, and the darks. And there's almost like a grid, a repetition of all these doors, and this light moving across diagonally, and this truck on the floor, and there's a little something going on here, shadow or what. There's I think this image has a lot going for it. I do want to rotate it and make my horizon line straight. Personal pet peeve. Here another good illustration. What I like about this is, like, a lot of times when I do this shutter speed project, a lot of slow shutter speeds, a lot of people point at the fan, but I really like that there's more environmental context to this image than just the fan. The fan is just an element, but it's a nice dynamic element. But if it were just the fan, be all right. I like the light here. I like, again, there's very nice geometry to this image, similar to the last image. And it's this geometry that really holds me as a viewer. I like the texture of the ceiling, the angle here, the angle here, angle here, light, mid-tone, dark, and then this elliptical shape from the fan and the movement and the blur that's created in the lines. Overall, I like this. I would like it, I think, just a little bit better if we had the line going straight up and down, and the horizon's off just a little bit. But I do like the image, and I like the contrast range and value, and the black and white nature of it too. This is a nice narrative. We're looking at the next project in our terms of narrative. I see a narrative in this one, but I also like how you're playing with this movement of the fire engine, because I see it here and I see it here, and I'm, I guess, half second or 30-second exposure, so really long exposure. So I can see the fire engine was closer and then moved farther away, or vice versa. It doesn't really matter. The impact is the same in the image. And then Barbie here, and then the tragic accident or whatever is happening over here. Multiple bodies we're trying to save. I even like the context of the room, because you create this narrative, and then rather trying to create this whole faux real environment, you just leave it in a bedroom, and then it feels like a child's bedroom, and it feels like a child's imagination. And so there's a really nice, a narrative can be a series of images, but we can also create a story just in one image, and that's what this image does. So there's, I think, a lot going on, and as I look at it, I probably like to look at it and think about the image more. But we should probably move on and see what else we got. I would also be curious to see this image in color, though it might be distracting. So I kind of like the grayscale. Almost has a Ouija look to it, something Ouija might have found on the streets of New York in 1940. All right, let's see. And here it is in color. Yeah, I like it better in black and white. So, ask for and you shall receive, for better or worse. And grayscale, I think, is stronger. The color gets a little off here, and I don't want to add a note. You know that feature was in Flickr. All right, let's move along here. Panning, I'm going to guess, is what we're after with this image. 1/30th second. So f/25, so fairly large depth of field. The figure's fairly far away. Following it, the 1/30th isn't too slow, but certainly slow enough to do some panning with. I like the structure of this image. I like all the foreground. I like the figure over here on the left, and I like how they're looking at this house, and then this house and the trees, and a little bit of sky. Like, there's a very nice value range here. Um, well, actually, the child's not looking at the house, but now that I look closer, I can zoom in. But I like the position, I like the feel of it. I do wish the figure were just a little bit sharper. Is she playing with something here too? I see this like circular thing, more like going around here. So I would like her just a little bit sharper. There's nothing. I guess it's because panning is hard, and panning and trying to get that razor sharp is almost impossible. But the goal with our panning is to have that object sharper than the rest of the image, and I don't know that she's any more sharp than the rest of the image here. So I'd like it almost if she were a little bit sharper, maybe better, a 15th or an eighth of a second might give you more time to follow her and create a little more blur here. But I don't know if I want too much more because I do like what I see here. That's my only criticism, is I like her sharper. I don't want anything else sharper. But I don't know if I want it much blurrier either. Fine balance. Nice composition though. Good use of black and white. Here the figure is much sharper, but there are also we have color, selective color, and then the green and the red, complementary colors work well. She gets emphasized very nicely here, and that's what the other image lacked. I want a little more emphasis on that figure. I almost think I like the other photograph better if I could just get her sharper. But I like this one too. I mean, the composition is very similar and similar things going on. But yeah, it's good. Here we go. This is definitively sharper. So with these images, I like the compositions. I like each and every one of them, and you got a little something different going on in each one. But when I start looking at these, I almost start to see building like a series or a body of work off them. But it seems like we need to expand, if we're to keep building this as body work, expand it and go into different neighborhoods, into the city or into rural, or it could even be the same figure. So I'm not sure which of these three I like the best. I do kind of like this one here. We have that sharp and then that soft look to it. And I like the composition in this, so maybe I think this one's the best. But there's something about the distance in this one. It's at arm's length that I kind of appreciate. Here we're getting a little closer. The girl's like a little more recognizable, and I almost like this where I'm just an observer. And here it's more like a little bit more intimate and interactive in a sense, and I'm kind of liking this feel of the distance in this one. So great. All right, painting with light. I think we've got a few explorations that you're sharing here, and I think we're creating interesting forms with the light. But my favorite one is probably this one, because when I deal with painting with light, or when I look at images of painting light, I'm always fascinated by this objective-subjective relationship that we can create in a photograph, because we so often think of photographs as just purely objective things. And a lot of times when I do this assignment, I see just completely subjective things, just light squiggles. And I'm most fascinated with painting light when I see the light squiggles in contrast to something objective. And this one has that. I can see this figure here. I almost wish it were like flashed or a couple times or whatever, so it would be a little sharper, a little more contrast between this. But I like the interaction. I like this movement that you're creating with the light. Overall, has this zigzag movement. And then within there, of course, there's lots of little movements created. But I like that very distinct zigzagging effect, and I like this break that we have here, and then the figure in the middle. I just wish the figure were just a bit more distinct, and I think this image would work better for me. I do like this environmental information because it kind of goes with the line. I am a little distracted by that. Maybe Photoshop it out or something, or I don't know. But okay, anyways, that's probably my favorite one of painting with light. This one, I like the you're creating almost this spiral or concentric circle, and then there's this hole in the middle. I wish there was something in that hole. I mean, there's something in there, but it's not something I can like pull out and really look at and think about it. It seems pretty non-objective, just looking at it right here. So yeah, push that. Here we have this, and then there's more environmental information, but there's no real visual interaction between them. There's no similarities, just a whole lot of differences, and I can't really tie them together. So I think this is probably the least effective one of the three. But yeah. All right, so those are my thoughts. Leslie, let's keep moving here. We're going to look at Kate Farley's work and see if we can find her Project 2 final images right there. All right, let's start with this image. And here we have, living room composition. I do kind of like the composition. I like the rectangles, the chair, the fireplace, and then above that a circle. And then I come over here and I have more rectangles. And then, and these are almost reflective of this too, so there's like this nice sort of movement here. And then in the middle of that, we've got the figure interacting with books and a little bit of blur. And I like that you're facing away, and I think overall the composition works pretty well. Your horizon line's off a little bit there. It needs a rotation of 0.1 or 0.2 degrees counterclockwise. And yeah, as a landscape photographer, I know it's just got to get that horizon straight. It can work sometimes off, but 99.9% of the time not, in my opinion. So anyways, like the composition. I like how you're playing with the shutter speed and the blur of it. See, I think the other image is more interesting. Less identity, and the blur adds something to the photograph. So I do like this exposure a little bit better. Like, the blues out here are a little more intense, and here they're underexposed. So I guess I like the exposure of this image better, but I like the content and composition and how the objects interact better in this image. And I think I like the color version better. Both of them. All right, it looks like we are panning with the dog. We have a color version, we have a grayscale version. I'm not sure which one I like better. I think they're actually both pretty interesting. I like the composition. I like this pole and the tree kind of balance each other out. And we have this horizontal movement. The dog's fairly sharp, and the tail is wagging. Trees are blurry as well. So I think overall, I think both work are really nice. It's a well-done panning image. Interesting, engaging, active, dynamic, all those good things. So I like that image. Now we get to painting with light, and we've got a couple three different images to consider, maybe 4 different images to consider. Not sure what the difference is. Oh, here we go. There is a value difference. So, curious as to which one came first. Of these two, I prefer this one. I like that I get more information. I like that there's information in the shadow areas, and the information on light is a little less, just plain white. So I'm not sure which one was post-production and which one was right out of the camera, but my preference is this one because there's more range of values to look at and consider. And here it's just like white and black, and nothing else to really consider. And so I don't know. Let's look at the color one. The color one actually has really nice forms, lines. I like the colors and how they're interacting. But as I talked about earlier in the previous video, what my favorite thing about painting with light is the interaction of the objective and subjective. Here I'm left with all subjective. It's composed nicely though. I mean, this upper left, the blue and the green work well. Even kind of like the black of it. I just wish there was a little bit more interaction with a thing, an object, or a person, or something like that. But it's good to see. I like the line quality, and I think it's composed well. It just needs to take that next step, for myself anyways, to create more content, more meaning in it. It's not to say that abstract expressionistic things can't have meaning and content. I just find it more fascinating when they collide and they interact, when the objective and subjective interact in photography, challenging that whole objectiveness of it. It's better in color. So, all right, I think that is all the images that you have there. So, all right, good job exploring, Kate, and we will move along, and we'll do one more in this series, and we will look at Natalie. All right, Natalie. Project 2. Okay, I'm going to start with this series down here. We have a wind turbine moving, and we can see, I would say there are different shutter speeds here. This is 1/60th, and I'm going to get a slower 15th, or no, that's also a 60th. Maybe there's a spinning faster. There's more movement on the blade. All right, so compositionally, I think the composition works. And the only difference in these really is the position of the blades and how blurry they are. So I think maybe this is the best one. I like the contrast. See, this is a little like darker, a little less contrast. I really kind of like this. You can see the boats in the water. They separate out more here. Things get a little mushy. And the position of the blades works well. I like the juxtaposition of that with the power lines. So it has a very, sort of new topographics, new landscape photographic feel to the image. So I'll go with that one. Like the composition. I'd be curious to see if it looked like if we had that turbine blurred more, how'd that work? Let's see what we've got here. So of these three, I'm most interested in the first one that I looked at. This one, because for a number of reasons, one of them is just dealing with shutter speed. I actually see, this object, I'm assuming is a bird blur here at a 60th, and it gives me more. I like the relationship that we have this tarp, and then with the bird, and they have a similar shape. Though this one is sharp, and then this one is soft, and I like this composition too. And I like it in the color. I like this fuller color that we have here than in some of the other ones. The red and the blue are stark contrast. Here's another blue, white's a little bit more reddish purplies, desaturated down at lower right hand corner. Yeah, I like this composition. This one is my favorite. That bird in the sky adds something to it. The desaturation, I don't think helps it. We're not fully desaturated, but we certainly are less saturated. And I think the bird is a missing element in this one. It's just better with the bird. That's what I've learned. All right, so I like this composition with the bird. All right, now we are looking at our painting with light image. We'll stick to these two. Of these, I'm more attracted to the color image, though I think we get more symbolic here with a sort of heart shape in this one. I would like to actually pull a little more information out of the background. The figure in the background are dark. I like that. In some degree, I like the contrast of this. This really light, and I like the line quality. Sparklers are fun because they create such a unique line quality than a flashlight or something else. There's also I'm trying to, I actually kind of like this composition where we have this figure in the middle, just kind of right there in the middle, and then we have this line streaking across, and it feels a little bit awkward and a little bit like a combination of a serious intent to play with his light, and also has this feel more of a snapshot quality. Because if we take out this light element, it feels like just a snapshot of this person in this environment, at this place, this thing that we're doing. But there's this disconnect between that snapshots, because snapshots are just that. They're not thought out typically. They're just like reactions, like, ooh, that's cool. Oh, look at there, it captures this action. It's not that they're not thought out, but they're more spontaneous, and we're not thinking about composition, or thinking about art and concept and ideas. We're just trying to document things. And it has that feel, that snapshot feel, but then we also have this very intentful line going through this. And I just would like to lighten up, maybe add a little more contrast to the background. I don't know if I can do that at all. Maybe I can borrow the image here, though it would just be in preview and tools, adjust color. Let's see, exposure, just lighten that. Then I want to put a little bit of that contrast. Whoa, yeah, no. I don't know if I'm improving that image at all. Almost like this version better. So, anyways, I like this composition. I like the color. It takes some more playfulness, but I think we could pull a little bit more information out of here if we really took some time. The grayscale is just so dark. There's less emphasis on the interaction of the figure and the light, and I want to pull out more details and textures. It might actually be good if we could lighten it up a little bit and pull out some more details and textures behind just that light object. So, okay, all right. Well, anyways, I would say good job with the explorations, and we do have a couple more images to look at. This is, I like the image. The only thing I think geometry is so important, and it's shot like this. I want this thing totally squared up, totally framed, and we're a little, on a slight angle here, maybe even looking down, and we need to get on the level of this, look at it straight on, and nail that framing. And I think this is good. I like the idea of the stuff that we're seeing, this jumbled mass in a drawing, I'm assuming. So I like the image. I just want to square things up, and I think the other image is much more engaging than the dark image. So I don't know did a flash go off on this one? Let me see. No, did not fire. Yeah. Now this is bland. This is interesting. I like this one. So, okay. All right. Well, those are my thoughts there, and I'm going to move on and create a different video.